Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, bringing you my review plus on-feet video of the Adidas Yeezy 350 American football cleats. Now, for those that aren't familiar with what these are, this is a cleat variation of Kanye West's signature model from the Adidas brand, the Yeezy 350 Boost. Now, this is something that they kind of did as a limited edition out of the blue thing. They made a cleat variation of the 350 model, which is the low that I have right here. And there was also a cleat variation of the high top 750 model that I don't think would be as appropriate to actually show on this channel, but because this is a low-cut shoe with cleats, again, technically an American football cleat, a lot of you guys have been asking me, can you wear these as a soccer shoe or football, as it's called around the rest of the world? That's something I'm going to be talking about in today's video. We're going to take a look at all the tech specs and just the general quality of the shoe. We're going to talk about the weight as well as take a look at how they fit and feel on feet. So if you're interested in learning more about this very unusual American football cleat that is Kanye West inspired, part of the reason why it was so popular, stick around and watch the entire video. I'm going to explain everything that you need to know. If you guys are interested in a pair of these for yourself, unfortunately this was a limited edition release, and as with pretty much anything Yeezy branded, it sold out very, very quickly. I was very fortunate to actually be able to get a pair on the release day. The retail price on these was $250, but they're mostly reselling on eBay for around $300 or so. So nothing crazy like a pair of Yeezy sneakers would go for, but still above the retail price nonetheless. So with that all out of the way, let's get right into the review. To start things off, let me answer what's going to be the #1 question in the comment section of this video, given that I am a soccer channel, and that is whether or not you can wear the Yeezy American football cleats as soccer shoes or football boots. And the simple answer to that question is it's probably not a very good idea. You can technically do it, but I'm going to share some reasons why you probably wouldn't want to do it. Now, keep in mind that this is an American football cleat, and with that in mind, this is an American football cleat that is very much kind of fashion inspired. They took the upper of a Yeezy 350 Boost, which is a lifestyle sneaker. They added a layer of polyurethane or sprint skin on top so it wouldn't be just a straight up mesh upper. And then they threw on a sole plate and stud pattern from their what's the shoe called? It's called the Adidas Adizero 5-star football cleat. So this is not kind of like a purpose-built performance design. It'll get the job done as an American football cleat, but this is something that is one, a collector's item, and two, something that you wear as kind of more of a fashion statement as opposed to this is my best option for an American football cleat. So just keep that in mind. The other reason why you probably wouldn't want to wear this as a soccer shoe is because there's a couple things about it that, if brought to the attention of the referee, which is pretty likely because everybody knows what these are, he could ask you to take them off because there's certain things about it that aren't necessarily legal. The first thing being this heel tab on the back. The reason why it's there is, again, it's a fashion statement. It's something that's on the sneaker, so they put it there on the cleat, so it does bear a similar resemblance to the sneaker itself. But this is something that quite simply is a safety hazard, and if any referee saw this or noticed it, or like I said, if it was brought to his attention by another player on the other team, he's going to ask you to take these off. You're not allowed to wear a little rubberized bracelets that's hanging, just because fingers could get stuck, fingers could get broken. When people lock arms, it's possible for stuff to get tucked in the little gap of the bracelet, and this is kind of the same concept. People are going to be in and around your heel area with their cleats. Cleats can get stuck in here. It can either pull this off, which I don't think is going to happen. What's likely to happen is it'll cling on, it'll pull on you, it'll pull on them, and that's when you can get some pretty serious, pretty nasty injuries. So this little heel tab on the back of both shoes, I definitely view as a pretty major safety hazard. The other thing is the stud pattern. Now, the stud pattern, I don't necessarily see any issues with the actual studs themselves. I suppose it's possible that this could be viewed as something that is unsafe depending on the strictness of the referee. I'm not entirely sure on that though, but you do have this big stud at the tip of the toe, which isn't going to be ideal for actually kicking the ball. just because it is kind of the same length as all the other studs. Normally when you do see a stud closer to the tip of the toe on a soccer cleat, it's very, very small, so it's not going to get in the way. This one's straight up in the middle and the same size as all the other cleats. So from a traction standpoint, it is probably going to be pretty good. But in terms of kicking the ball and getting under the ball, which you frequently have to do in a soccer application, that is going to get in the way quite a bit. The other thing to consider is the actual touch of the upper itself. While it's relatively thin and the touch on the ball I would say is not going to be horrible, it's not the most comfortable thing in the world, mainly because of how it's designed. It has this really kind of bulky stitch going down the middle where the two halves of the upper are attached. And then because of this one piece design that the upper actually has here for the tongue area, when you actually tie them, and you'll see this during the on-feet portion of the video, it kind of just overlaps on itself and you get left with a lot of extra material kind of bulging across the top of your foot, which just makes for, I guess, a very sloppy feel, a lot of extra bulk, and just not a clean surface to shoot the ball or kick the ball with. And that's pretty important in, like I said, a soccer cleat application. So that is kind of the main reasons why I don't think this would be a good idea to wear as a soccer cleat. You can do it for practice, you can do it if you really, really want to, but like I said earlier, the retail was $250, they resell for $300 plus, and at that price you can buy just about any soccer cleat out there that's currently available. So for that kind of money, you're better off buying a purpose-built soccer cleat unless you're just really trying to make a fashion statement. But again, be aware, if you wear these in a game, if it is brought to the attention of the referee, or if the referee just knows about shoes in general, he could ask you to take them off, because there are things about this that wouldn't be legal as an actual pair of soccer cleats. As far as tech specs go, they really didn't do too much to the original design of the Yeezy 350 sneaker to make it into a cleat. They've maintained the same look. As you can pretty clearly see, it does look like a pair of Yeezy sneakers. So they maintain the prime knit upper in this kind of tan and black coloring, but to reinforce what would otherwise be pretty much just a straight up mesh or straight up knitted upper that doesn't have much structure to it, they added a layer of fused material on top. It's what Adidas calls sprint skin. They have various names for all this kinds of stuff. And that's what adds a lot of, I guess, rigidity to the upper itself. Is it the most locked down thing in the world? No, but it adds a lot of, I guess, firmness to the upper, and it doesn't allow the knitted upper itself to actually stretch out like a sock. So that is going to create much more of a lockdown feel than what the shoe would otherwise provide. In terms of how that would impact touch on the ball and how it actually feels, you do have a liner on the inside of the shoe as well, a synthetic leather material that's quite thin, but it does add to the overall firmness. The upper itself isn't overly thick, but it's not overly thin either. I'd describe it as kind of in between, but you do have this very bulky kind of stitch seam running through the middle of the shoe that again is there mainly for looks, and because of all the structure that they added with outside materials and inside materials, it's a very, very noticeably thick area of the upper, and it's a lot stiffer as well. You do feel it when the shoe is on your foot, and it's not the most premium feeling thing, especially if you're going to be kicking the ball. If you're just running in them as they are kind of intended to be worn as an American football cleat, you're not really going to have any issues. But when it comes to kicking, like I said, there's a really hard, thick seam running through the entire center of the shoe that I personally am not too crazy about. The finish on the surface is pretty straightforward. It's quite smooth and it isn't going to feel overly slick on the ball. And like I said, the touch, as long as you're not coming in contact with the middle part, is going to be okay. But with that being said, you do have, again, this one-piece design that does clump up when you tie the laces tight. It creates a lot of extra bulk here across the top of the foot, which is a pretty important area of the foot considering that you are going to be playing soccer in these, and that is kind of something that's going to be making contact with the ball quite a bit. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys are probably saying, hey, in American football, there's kickers, they kick the ball. Don't they wear shoes like this? The answer to that question is no. If you don't know, American football kickers, at least, tend to wear, I would say 99% of the time, soccer cleats, just because it is going to offer a better kicking experience, better kicking feel, a cleaner striking surface than an American football cleat would provide, which, like I said, it's more so designed around really good traction and just being nice and sturdy on your foot in general, be it a low cut or a mid cut variation. So something to keep in mind with this particular shoe. The laces run through the middle, and it does maintain the same lacing system as the Yeezy 350 sneaker, which It does get the job done, although like I said, it is kind of sloppy in terms of how this top of the foot area fits when you actually tie the laces nice and tight, and you'll be able to see that very clearly during the on-feet portion of the video. It is a low-cut sneaker. You don't really have any structure to the heel aside from this kind of lower heel counter right here. That's part of the insole, but even that is a fairly thin plastic. The inside heel liner is a nice suede material, so the quality is very good, and the amount of padding back there is quite nice as well. Insole, it is removable. It's got a mesh liner on top. You can see it does say Adidas Yeezy, which I guess is kind of cool. And then it does have this really nice thick layer of foam. It's quite a nice insole, not something you would normally find in a soccer cleat, but again, for a football cleat, I suppose that this would probably be somewhat of the norm, just to have as much underfoot comfort as possible. They don't necessarily need to be super low profile because, again, they're not really made for kicking the ball. And as far as underneath that insole is concerned, there isn't anything. It does not feature any boost foam like you'll find in the Yeezy 350 Boost sneaker. So again, something else to keep in mind. As far as the bottom is concerned, again, it does have that one-piece heel counter attached to the rest of the outsole. This is an outsole straight up taken from the Adidas Adizero 5-star football cleats, which again, not a soccer cleat, it's an American football cleat. So you have a stud pattern that is not too far off from what you'll find on a lot of Adidas's soccer models, but you have a little bit more studs. The studs are a little bit longer in general, and they kind of go more so to the edges just because, again, there's more of an emphasis on traction here as opposed to having traction as well as having the ability to kind of kick the ball and not have the studs get in the way. So that stud at the tip of the toe for soccer purposes could cause you some problems, but overall, it's a stud pattern that, minus this stud at the tip, if they eliminated that, I suppose you could use this as a soccer-specific stud pattern. It would work just fine. And the sole plate itself, while it has these kind of interesting cutouts here, it actually is a little bit stiffer than you might expect it to be, more so than most soccer cleats. As far as this little sticker right here, you can see it says the color treatment will begin to wear off over time with use. Certain 5-star football cleats will have actually some printed patterns right here on the bottom. This one doesn't have it, but they maintain the sticker there on the bottom. So as far as I know, nothing is actually going to wear off with the actual bottom of the shoe just because it is all one solid color. So that's pretty much it in terms of the tech specs and just a general breakdown of what the Yeezy 350 cleat actually is. Again, it's an American football cleat that will get the job done, but I really view this as more of a fashion statement, something that Adidas did as kind of a cool thing to release just because there was some demand for it, as opposed to a shoe that they released with the idea of it being a true kind of performance product. It'll get the job done, but it's certainly nothing groundbreaking. In terms of weight, I thought we'd compare the Yeezy 350 cleats to an actual soccer cleat from the Adidas brand, one of their more popular models, the X16 Plus Pure Chaos. So I'm gonna weigh both shoes for you today in real time using this scale. Keep in mind they're both in brand new condition and both the exact same size 9 US. So we'll start off with the Pure Chaos, which is an actual soccer cleat or football boot. It weighs in at 7 ounces exactly, the equivalent of 198 grams. So remember those numbers, change the scale back to ounces, pull these off, and we'll throw on the Yeezy 350 cleats, and you can see that they weigh in at 9.5 ounces, the equivalent of 270 grams. So you're talking about a 72 gram or 2.5 ounce weight difference between these two shoes, with the soccer cleat being a lot lighter. Again, that's not overly surprising. The upper is a lot less significant on the soccer cleat. It's thinner materials in general. It's a thinner sole plate. It's more flexible. It's more oriented around being nice and light on your feet, but at the same time fitting very snug and offering a nice touch on the ball, where this is more so designed around having really good traction, which you do get from this particular stud pattern, a more beefy sole plate that I guess is a little bit more supportive and a little bit more structured, and then obviously a lot more structure from the upper that, again, isn't necessarily purpose-built for performance. It's more so lifestyle inspired, but definitely a lot more bulk to it than what you'll find in an actual soccer cleat. All right, so here is a look at the Yeezy 350 cleats on feet. The fit of the shoe is actually pretty decent. I really don't have any issues with the shape. Once you pull the laces tight, the shoe wraps your foot nicely. There's not a lot of excess space, but obviously a lot of that has to do with getting the proper size as well. My main issue that I have with the upper is two things. One, that stitching going down the middle. There is a very large bulky, almost stiff seam through the middle of the shoe and across the top of my foot, as well as at the very tip of the toes. It's just noticeably uncomfortable. It's a hard part of the upper that I suppose could get softer over time, but like I said, it's twice as thick as the rest of the upper, and it just has a stiffer sensation to it in general that to me just feels slightly uncomfortable. I really wish that wasn't there. The other thing in regards to the upper that just doesn't necessarily feel bad, but it looks a little bit sloppy, and if you were using these for, like I said, a soccer application, it would feel not the greatest either, is the actual top of the foot area. When you actually pull the laces tight, it kind of folds over on itself, and there's a lot of extra bulk right here. It's kind of difficult for me to show you guys. There's a lot of extra material kind of folding over here across the top of my foot. And again, it's just excess bulk that you wouldn't necessarily want for kicking the ball. So that's something that, again, I don't really like about this particular shoe for a soccer application. As a football cleat, if you can get past the hardness from that seam down the middle, again, I think it's pretty wearable. The upper doesn't feel flimsy on your foot. The lockdown and general comfort in the heel area is quite good as well. The laces are a little bit long when you actually tie the cleats tight, which obviously you would want to do because it is technically a performance product in this application. And the sole plate feels good under feet. It's not necessarily overly stiff like it does feel in hand. And again, they're fairly comfortable, all things considered. Width-wise, I would say they're wide enough for most people. They've got some decent width to them. Doesn't necessarily have the super snug fit of a soccer cleat, but they do fit quite well in general. And as far as sizing is concerned, I decided on a size 9 US, which is what I normally wear. That's what I ended up ordering, or what I was able to order. And the fit and the length is pretty much perfect. So for the most part, I would say that these do run true to size. So if you are looking to buy a pair in the resale market, I'd recommend going true to size for the best possible fit. Alright guys, that is it for my review of the Adidas Yeezy 350 American football cleat. If you have any questions at all regarding this shoe, leave them down below in the comments and I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you enjoyed today's video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information linked in the description as well. And other than that guys, hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, thanks for watching.